Welcome to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast with your host, legendary powerlifter and strength athlete, Chad Ikes. For most, the journey of strength starts in the gym, but should inevitably expand through all aspects of life. Join us as we discuss all things strength. Now, here's your host, Chad Ikes.
Hey everybody, we're back again. It's so funny because when I first had the people do this intro, like it was really awkward to me to listen to, and now it just makes me kind of laugh. Um, so
I
today
was
we
kind of
have
waiting for it to go.
another.
In a world where Chad Ice interviews people on a podcast.
My favorite one was when I had Jim Wendler on, and he just starts ripping on it right away.
Love it. Love it.
So today, as everyone knows, I'm in the middle of a move, so I don't have my nice background or anything, and I'm kind of spotty on getting these done. But one of the things I love about powerlifting is that I got to kind of learn the history of it. Then I got to compete, and now I'm an old dude, so like I'm on the other end of that. But I still get so excited about all the new stuff that's going on, and I still have. I mean, I follow like all these people, like my guest here today, because I'm still a fan of the sport. Like I still love seeing what people do. And I follow Robert Bain, and I was listening to his watching one of his clips in the morning. I'm like, oh, that's a great clip, man. And I think I commented on it. And then like I got busy, but I wrote him later. I'm like, hey, that's a great, like, would you want to get on the podcast? I go, because it was just a great subject that I love talking about. And fortunately for me, he agreed to be on. So today we have Robert Bain. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't even know your name was Robert. I've
Most people
always
don't.
called you Bain.
Yep. Yep. And I'm cool with that. I like that. It's you cannot confuse me with anybody else.
And you one of the things I've always liked about you is that I don't think people know that you totaled like almost 2,500, like
Yep.
2,469 or something. You
Yep.
got like 1,150 squat.
Yep.
You're 7+ bench. I don't know, or 7+ deadlift.
Yeah, 700 deadlift, 611.8 bench, which for whatever reason open powerlifting didn't get. Something happened with the formatting of the meet results when they came over from
No,
the
you know
IPO.
what else is funny? Because I was looking your stuff up,
Yeah.
and like you got a lot of meets where it's listed like 4 times.
So yeah, I was that guy. I was the dude that entered every local meet, and it's like, all right, I'm doing tested, untested, open submaster. One time I did all that, plus I did push pull for all those as well. So I'm listed like 9 times in one meet, and walking out of there with like all the medals and everything. What's
Because
hilarious is
I first looked at the meets and I go, dude, this dude did like 20 meets in a year. Like, how the hell do you do
no,
that?
no,
And
I'm
then
not
I
Bob
started
Burger.
looking at the dates and I'm like, oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah, no, I usually competed 3 to 4 times a year. Now it's kind of dialed back to a couple,
But
but yeah, I
but
mean, I
the
would
thing
always.
is, even while you're competing, and I think there's some new news coming up with you on this one, you're known for like spotting and running platforms and
Yeah.
like I mean, I remember back in the WPO days, it was like Chris Weirs. If Chris Weirs was running like a bunch of the WPO ones, and it's like, dude, if Chris is back spotting me, I'm happy as shit, man, because this guy's got like the magic touch.
Yeah.
And I know people kind of feel the same way about you. If you're running the platform, I'm chilled out, man, because I know it's going to be done and it's going to be good. And it's so people, I think people kind of sometimes know you as that person and maybe don't know
Yep.
the other person. It's like, no, he's doing both of them.
Yeah, well, up until a couple weeks ago, yeah, I was doing both. I did at the 2025 Women's Pro-Am, I did hang up the elbow sleeves. So I was kind of known for that. Like if you saw me spotting, I always wore elbow sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
One, because I'd had enough bars dumped on me, which I don't blame any lifter for that necessarily. It just kind of happens. People pass out, especially multiply. You know how it goes. You know, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. But also because I'd actually blown my arm up in 2020. We're actually coming up on the 5 year anniversary of that here pretty soon. I ruptured the distal tendon, did a bunch of damage to my arm, and so just to protect that, I had put the elbow sleeves on even before, but now I always had them on whenever I spotted. So, uh, kind of the signature thing is the most famous elbow sleeves in powerlifting. So yeah, I wore them that last day at the pro am on amateur day and took them off for the last time. I'll tell you what, it was a beautiful moment. Laura Phelps was incredibly generous with everything she's ever done whenever I spot the pro am, and said a lot of very kind things afterwards, and just I am forever grateful to be a part of all those platforms, but especially the women's program.
I know Nevaeh McIntosh is one of my started out as a client, friend, family now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was almost in tears.
Oh, she was. She came up and she gave me flowers. I actually made a whole post with this on my LinkedIn because I have a whole
I
section
think
that
I
I do.
teased her about that. Like you gave him
Dude,
flowers.
it was one of the,
Like you should have
it
given
was
him like
one
a
of
box of cigars or something.
no, I appreciated that more because that was so, because I mean, she was bawling her eyes out and said, the only people I trust 100% behind me are you and my dad. And being a girl dad, like I know the weight those words carry. And so that just, whew, man, that sent me. That absolutely sent me.
Yeah, that's tough. So let's move on to like the main part of your that video was about kind of like you tend to use the word cruise. I always use the word team,
Mhm.
but how over the generations that has kind of changed
Mhm.
and where I think there's so much benefit to that that I don't think people kind of understand.
Yeah, and I want to be very clear when I talk about crews and the different generations and kind of how this has all evolved. This is not a multiply versus raw or old head versus new kid. It's nothing. This is just how the gym culture has evolved. Um, it used to be you needed people to teach you like how because equipped was all there was. You needed people to teach you how to use the gear. You needed access to some of the equipment that was out there because you didn't have, you know, combo racks or monoliths or anything really available, or even the requisite amount of weight in a gym to actually perform the powerlift movements. So like you needed access to these people. So that grew, crews grew. Obviously you have West Side, you had Big Iron, you had these different gyms that kind of came up, throughout the U.S. and even throughout the world. But really, those were here in the U.S. is where we talked about it. And then as the Raw Revolution happened, that's where people started to splinter off. And as I looked through and talked to some folks that have been around during that time, a couple big things stood out to me. One, you had as the original groups of those crews were aging out, they weren't backfilling with new talent. And so people were like, they were left by themselves, like, well, like, I have to train by myself anyway. So it became just a part of the process. Like, I have to train by myself. Well, if I can train by myself, why do I need folks here? I'll just call somebody over when I need a spot. And that was it. And so folks went off and they did their own thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But as individuals came into the sport and saw people training on their own, they didn't have people with them. They would show up to a meet and they have one or two people with them, if that. Well, that's the norm that people are seeing. They didn't necessarily understand that like this all stemmed from, this crew or these crews that built all this. And as Multiply kind of went to, I don't say died, but it went to the back burner. When you look at, the powerlifting landscape, like Multiply, even Single Ply, they are on the back burner. Raw is very much in the front. And so you have people that are focused on that. They're doing their own thing. And with social media, people don't want to see your crew. They want to see you, or that's what the belief is. So again, not a knock on social media. This is not my get off my lawn speech, but it has certainly impacted how people portray their training and their lifting.
That's actually a
So
really interesting point of view. And I never thought about it exactly how you just explained it. It was like it kind of became culture, like it evolved into this culture of you just do it by yourself.
correct. But again, you see Max Everett lifts and you'll see a couple spotters around. And I've talked to some people that are, I would say, not influencers, but they're some of the bigger raw guys. And they're like, yeah, like I don't want the spotters in the video because I don't want it to be about them. And one guy, he's a friend. It's like part of the reason is because of people like you, like me. It's like because there are spotters that can take the spotlight sometimes. I'm like, yeah, at a meet, I can see that. I can absolutely see that. So knowing all that, I then got back to, well, great, but like what was always part of the draw of like a West Side? And I hate always going back to West Side, but let's call it what it is. Like that's the standard we all look at. Even the raw kids today, they all look
Well,
at
it's
like that
for
was
the
the standard.
longest time, West Side was just uh,
Yeah.
huge, absolutely huge. I mean, it was hard to even describe what they did for the sport.
There are lifters there that if they were part of any other gym, they are all time at that gym and they've been forgotten at West Side because of how much that team progressed.
Yeah,
So so knowing that, like again, we didn't have the cruise, the evolution, we didn't have any of this stuff. And so when people look at this stuff, again, they look at uh I'm kind of losing my train of thought here because again, it's there's just so much that runs through my head when I think about crews and I think about
Yeah,
this. Um, but you had basically a meet atmosphere every single time you came into training. It's tough to have that because let's be real, like, another thing I think we're going to talk about is like the 1,000 pound squat, this Project 1K that I'm working on with Donnie Thompson. Not everybody can do that. If you have a crew that has multiple people that can do that, like, you have to understand, like, the person who's doing that is the outlier. To have multiple people doing that is insane.
I think like I remember my team was very close. We were basically like family.
Hmm.
Nobody's ever heard of, every other, I can tell you stories of arguments between almost every other major team I knew.
Hmm.
My team we argued, bickered, and solved it that day. Like there was none of this long term shit. And to this day, their kids are my nieces and nephews. And we still see
Yeah.
each other. We still talk to each other. And we would sit down a lot and just talk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it would be sometimes it'd be like, hey man, Scott's bench is just kind of shit, man. What do you guys think's going on? And you just had all these different minds. But I remember sitting down one time and Scott didn't compete a lot because he never had much money. But this lifetime drug free, he ended up squatting over 1,000 pounds. He ended up benching over 7, and I don't think he pulled 8 officially, but we pulled 8 in the gym. So his best total was like 23 something.
But still, I
And
mean, 2,500 pound gym total. That's huge.
and he like when he started with me, he was like under 190 pounds. When he finished, he was 320 and just built.
That's a unit.
And we were sitting down one time, and this was later, and he's like, you know what? He goes, I don't think I would have ever did any of this if I didn't train with you guys. And he goes,
Oh, 100%.
the biggest thing is you just kept getting stronger. And he goes, so I saw you continuing to break these records and continuing to push through all the shit. And it was kind of like, how can't I not do that?
Exactly.
And I think there's a lot to that. We're and as a coach now, and you probably see this too with the people you help. Like a lot of people set what they can do based on what they see around them. And so if you have a team, or if you don't have a team, or you're by yourself, you don't really have that view of all these people working and pushing themselves.
Yeah, you don't by not having a bar consistently set higher, or and this is the other way, is like, okay, let's say you're fairly even. Like I would say if you look at our crew at Wolfpack Barbell, you've got I think we've got across the board with everybody who's trained with us before and who currently trains us, like 8 guys who squatted the grand. We
Mm-hmm.
got 2 guys who squatted over 1,100, me and Steve Brock. Steve was the first guy over 50 to ever do it. Has also now
Well,
squatted over a
I
grand
mean,
with
that
2
becomes
replacements.
almost the norm.
Yeah. Like every Sunday, and I like to joke, it's any given Sunday. Any Sunday, it can become like, all right, throw your stuff on, we're running it.
Mm-hmm.
And, hey, like we're gonna come in and do fives today. Nope. Max ever singles, and here's, me and Steve, we've got, 1050 on the Cambridge bar, and you got a couple other guys that are in the nines, we got this one guy, Robert Booker, who like no one knows his name, and I'm gonna tell you this right now. Everybody in powerlifting, when it's all said and done, will know who Robert Booker is. This guy he is built to do all this stuff. He basically came in with one good leg, could barely hit 6. If everything goes perfect tomorrow, he'll be able to take a swing at 1,000 pounds. He's been working with us for about a year and a half. He's coached by Connor Korowski, who's an incredible lifter himself and coach. But Booker he's everything you'd want in a lifter. He's too stupid to do anything else but do what you tell him. And and his body will quit before he does.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
But I
So,
think
so
that's
you
the
have
other thing too. You kind of learn that even if you see the numbers all the time, like if you have a good team of guys around you, they're like where you're like, oh, I did good, like I squatted 800 pounds,
there's
and
blood in the water every day,
your
man.
team's like, yeah, you did good at 800, but you know what? You could be doing 9, or you could
Yeah,
be doing 1,000,
exactly.
and you have all those people with that mindset, and it's reinforcing your mindset to where it's like, no, I don't give a shit what anybody did. What am I capable of?
Yes. And then it becomes when you have some of these guys that are a little bit older, like, and listen, like I'm one of the older guys too. Like I'm 43. So,
And you're
comparatively I
10
am,
years younger than me. You're still young.
but you got to think about it. When I'm competing in the open, I'm competing against guys that are 26, that are even
Yeah,
33. Like they're 10 years younger
yeah.
than me. So I'll still dust them, but that's neither here nor there. Uh,
I think prime is mid 30s, generally speaking.
I'll challenge that.
Will you?
I think early to mid 40s is prime. I had this conversation with Donnie yesterday, actually.
No, actually,
Because,
okay, wait a minute. Let me put a caveat in here then.
okay,
It depends on when you started competing.
yes, yes, because my first
So if
meet,
you, because you, I think you started a little later, didn't you?
yeah,
Didn't you? Because
yeah,
I did my first meet when I was 27.
32.
Yeah. So I
And
think there's also kind of a window of time you have to push yourself to that extreme. But if you can stay healthy, yeah, into your
and
40s, you can be strong as shit.
I've been knock on wood here, incredibly lucky. Like I've even across my soccer career, I played soccer for almost 30 years and played high school,
That's another one I
college.
didn't know. I heard about that when we were
Yeah,
talking. I love like AJ Roberts was like basketball. And I'm
yeah.
like, how do these great power lifters come from these weird ass other sports?
Well, so I look at it like this. Like
Although soccer players do have strong ass legs.
we do. Also, we're a little weird. Like, listen, long hair, short shorts, knee highs, little weird. Um, but that makes us perfect for our culture, right? Like we're a weird
Yeah.
bunch. We think differently. Um, but I'll tell you, like I learned a lot through that process of kind of we talked about before we start recording of like, hey, listen, like scoreboard always matters. Like you have to go till the last 90
Yeah.
minutes. Like
Yeah.
also I was fully prepared for any high volume workout anybody could throw at me. Like you kidding me? Like I can run for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be all right.
No, I
And
actually had that with Nevaeh at the pro am because
mhm,
we've had a bunch. She started wrestling and tweaked her shoulder, and we just had a bunch of
yep,
shit coming into that pro am. And she ended up getting red lighted on her 400-pound squat, which bummed her out.
yep,
And she struggled on the bench, and I'm like, it's not over yet. Like
yeah,
your day's not done. And then she ended up hitting like I think a 40-pound PR in her deadlift or something.
yep.
Like, don't quit.
Overall,
There's
I think
always something until the meet's done. You got to be in it.
yeah, absolutely. But back to the cruise thing. So, again, when every given Sunday, if somebody smells blood in the water, like it's on.
Mm-hmm.
That mindset is very different. Like, hey, if you're top dog everywhere you go, and I take nothing away from those people that can do that. Like, you got your Hoffs, your Phil Herndons, your John Hacks. These guys are incredible lifters, and every room they walk into, Dan Bell's another one. They're going to be all right.
Yeah.
But also, like even Dan, like look at where Dan trains at Perfect Storm down in Florida, where you've got him, Joe Jordan, Danny Tinajero, Nick Andrus. Like any given Saturday, it's on, and so that pushes these guys, right? And so that's something that is lost in kind of the newer culture. And it's been fun because now I help out. I volunteer with the high school that my youngest son goes to and working with these kids. So they're 15, 16, 18 years old and their coach is younger, great guy, super strong. And what I love is that they're now getting a taste of both worlds. They hear about my crew and they're like, well, why don't we do that? I'm like, because you all stand in, I mean, there's 12 of you and you're taking up 10 power racks every day. What's wrong with you? Like, and I
Yeah.
get it
Why
because
aren't
these
you
aren't,
working together? Yeah.
yeah. And I get it because like there's some height differences. I mean, this is an easy fix. Like
Mhm.
you three together, you four together, you four together, boom, problem solved. And
Yeah.
then, well, and one goes, well, I'll beat them every time. Like until you don't. There was a time where like every Sunday, Steve Brock was it. Like no one's touching him. And to be fair, like it's still kind of like that. But if Steve and I decide it's time, e- everyone else will be 100, 200 pounds behind us.
Yeah.
And it's just which one of us is going to drop first. And like again, that is the evolution of the lifter, and that is and if we didn't have that, I wouldn't be anywhere near as strong as I am now. And Steve might have quit when he had both his shoulders replaced because who's going to push him?
Yeah. I think there's a caveat to that, and this is something I've talked about for a long, long time, and something I try to keep defining more clearly because with the narcolepsy and the sleep and stuff, my recovery was shit,
Sure.
and I pushed probably too hard at some points, and so I think that pushing is great, but there also has to be a level with the team of like, what, we're going, you're not, and here's why you're not.
Yeah, and I think that's something we've all. I would say our crew specifically, and that I'm trying to imbue on the people that I work with, and when I talk in environments like this, I try to talk about too. Is like as you mature, this is why I do think that 40-year-old set is, pretty optimal for strength building and your prime is you learn what your body is truly capable of and
Yeah.
when to dial it, when to turn it up, when to dial it back. Are you in meet prep? No. I got nothing for, 16 weeks, 18 weeks. Feel a little tweak in my knee. Like, shut it down.
Yeah.
Why risk something dumb and then, hey, now I'm gonna take a year off, which like I don't have a year to take off, you know?
I
Unless
tell
we're real.
people, I go, one of the biggest setbacks you can ever get is an injury.
It is. And I was lucky. The only major injury I've had in powerlifting was during 2020. So like nobody was lifting.
Hmm.
So fine. But
And
then
that
it then it
says a lot about what you're just talking about too.
yeah. Yep. If
And I
if we're not
remember
feeling it,
coming up when I was coming up and I got to meet better and better lifters. I remember meeting these legendary lifters and getting to go to lunch or talk to them, and that was a hard one for me because I come from a blue collar background where
yeah,
it's like, dude, you get the fucking job done. I don't care
right.
what the hell. You cut your fucking arm, throw some duct tape on it, and get the job done. You can go to the hospital tonight.
And
And
there's a
that
time and place for that.
there's a time and place, but the smart is to back off. And I remember guys, I remember Ed Cohn. I sat down with Ed Cohn one time, and I'm like, what?
Hmm.
What do you mean you just stopped?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. And
Yep.
he's like, yeah, something was wrong, and it wasn't worth the risk. And I'm like,
Great
oh.
example of this. We were in Massachusetts for a meet a few weeks ago, and a big squat party, and you got a lot of guys putting up big numbers. I'm up there with John Rupo, who's if you have not talked to John, he would be a great interview, by the way.
I
Um,
have not,
but
surprisingly.
1,200 pound squatter, almost 1,100 pound single ply. Like the guy's an absolute mutant. And same thing, he and I are running each other up, and we get up to about I think it was 9, 10 plates. As soon as I stood up with it, giant camera bar, I'm like, nope, put it back. Like, just wasn't feeling it. Some felt weird in my knee. And I'm like, I've been in the car for 6 hours on the way up here. Like, it is not worth the risk right now
Yeah.
for that. But also, like, for him, that was great because it gave him an opening. Hey, I'm going to win today. And what's he do? He goes and doubles 1,005 on the camera bar. So,
No,
like,
see, this is the
no one
tough part.
loses.
This is the tough part for me with trying to explain this to people is I'm afraid some newbie's going to go, oh well, if I feel something, I need to stop. And it's like, no,
No.
there's a point where you need to like you said, there's that point where you go no matter what.
Yeah.
And you
Because
got to
I'm
build that. You got to build that tendon strength, that ligament strength. You got to build that mental capacity.
right.
So it's like it's not everyone should do that. It's like you got to put your time into to know to do that.
Right. I look at all the variables of all that is like I was traveling all day. Literally, we were in the car for 6 hours from Baltimore up um to Boston or Boston-ish. And then we're training, we're walking around, we're having fun, we're having a good time. So like this is all for fun. Now, if I was in meet prep, run it.
Yeah.
Like take my sleeves off, throw a wrap on, just run it. And because if you get injured, to me, if you get injured during a true meet prep, I can kind of deal with that. And
Hmm.
also, another caveat to this, are you hurt or are you injured?
Yes.
Those are two very different things.
Yeah.
Being hurt means I can push through this. Being injured is no, we shut it down.
Hmm.
And so that's another thing and that takes time.
But
Um,
again, with our whole topic, having a team of guys there
yes,
look at you and help you and go, hey man, what do you think?
yeah, because
And like I
I've
try and
definitely
like with the overtraining thing, I always try to explain. I go, listen, if you were on my team, which is I think this is why I loved your post because I think we have such similar thinking. If you came on the team, it's like, all right, here, dude, you are expected to learn powerlifting.
Mhm.
You're expected to learn the old guys, the new guys. You're expected to stack plates. You're expected to watch everybody. Like I will look at you at one point and go, "What do you think of that squat Scott just did or Ethan
Mhm.
just did?" And you better goddamn have an answer. If it's wrong, that's fine, but I want to know what you're thinking.
Yeah, I
So
think one of the
guys would come into the gym, and all of a sudden you'd hear everybody asking all these questions.
Mhm.
Like, hey, dude, how's your nutrition? How you been sleeping? How's your mindset? And what we're doing is we're trying to find out how good does that person feel today? Is there something we should be paying attention to? And
Yep.
trust me, I'm a super individual person. I trained by myself almost my whole life until I got into powerlifting. And I'm that's kind of my loner mentality, I think. But even on my team, I got to the point where I would walk in and one of my partners, Ethan, who always traveled with me, that dude knew me so good. I would walk in and he'd be like, "You're not lifting today." And there was a time where I would argue with him, but near the end,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, fuck, that sucks. But all right, well, let's get you guys going.
Yep.
Because I'm like,
And
he sees something, he knows something. Maybe it's the color of my skin, maybe it's my eyes are glazed over, maybe it's my pupils. Like the dude
sure.
just knows.
And I think the to add on to that, so one of the impetus for that post was actually a group chat that I was working with some friends where someone was pretty excited. They just competed and they were excited for the off season, and which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Uh, in my view, it's real like your total is truly built in that time, not between in between meet preps. The meet prep is just to get you ready for
Yeah.
execution on that day. But there are two other people in that gym that are competing in 8 weeks. And so kind of the impetus of that was like, hey, like part of your job as part of a crew is when your team is competing. I will tell you, in the run up to the women's pro-am, we had, four girls that were competing, and we all knew where they were at every point of their meet prep, who's doing what, and it's everything else we're doing takes a backseat to that.
Hmm.
And because when you got, Dakota Duffy going for a 700 pound, she ended up squatting 680, uh, you know, drug free, which was incredible on amateur day. You got Casey Gallett's going for an 800-pound squat. She was part of that group of ladies which I don't know if you watched any of the pro-am. There were four women that attempted 800-pound squats in the same day.
Yeah, that's
Unreal.
pretty nuts.
Like, and but knowing,
Because I still remember hitting my first 800.
right?
Like chicks
Like,
are doing it.
well, I was on the mic and I was like, there was a time when women wanted to total 800 pounds.
Hmm.
And now you got
Hmm.
four girls. I mean, then you had Jordan Bukla who goes 855. It's like, all right, well, we go hang it up now. Uh, Jordan's unbelievable, but yeah, so knowing what your team is doing and who's preparing for what. Now we have a couple of guys that are competing tomorrow, so it's like right, the shift or the focus shifts over to them. How do we get Connor and Booker and a couple other guys ready for this meet on Saturday? And then the focus will shift again because we've got a couple of folks competing in Daytona in May, and then I compete in July. It's like cool, like the focus just shifts on who's competing, but that's your job as part of the crew
Yeah.
to know who's doing what.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
and there's way
like I don't like the term off season in powerlifting anyway, because there
no,
really isn't. I mean, if you're like Kurt Kowalski and you're like, dude, I'm gonna take 6 weeks off after a meet, I get it. Actually wish I would have done that, but even then, he still had guys he lifted with, so it was like he still knew what everyone else was doing.
yeah. I
And
mean,
like
like
on my team, it was like, all right, if we're four guys, let's find a meet two of you can do. Then it's the other two's responsibility to take care of you,
yep.
and then we'll flip vice versa. So like you said, in your so-called off season, that's when you're training the hardest. So it's
Yeah.
really
Oh,
not an
yeah.
off season to me. But if you don't have a meet coming up, there's probably someone on the team who's getting ready for that prep, and you're just finding ways to blend your training together so you can all be there together.
And that's Steve Brock taught me this, the concept of the rabbit, right?
I laughed so loud when I heard you say rabbit, because I go, that's perfect. I never
It's,
thought of
it's,
that.
it's
I
what
like
it
it.
is. And we had two guys, this was years ago, this is like 2018. We had guys that were going for some real big squats, or real big totals or whatever. And so one day he's like, all right, Bain, you're on squats, Bill, you're on deadlifts, and so I can't remember who was on bench because you guys were doing SBD day. And it's like, run them up. And and that's great because like for me, it's like I get to test out like because I'm at that time I'm still not enhanced. I was still raw, so like cool, like I can just have fun, just run, have a good time. Now also like I look at all right, I'm in the quote unquote off season, so I'm not running as much stuff. I'm not wearing my gear as much.
Hmm.
So how big can I build that base so when it's time to run it up and actually like
Right.
turn this up for a meet, like what's that baseline? Like cool, like instead of opening, my squat at 960, now we're looking at, yeah, like in July, I'll probably open at like 1080.
Hmm.
Great. Because we know like that's something I can handle very, very comfortably. So, but again, but that quote unquote off season is what builds that.
Yeah, that's where you
And
get the.
the bigger that base gets, the bigger your total gets.
I remember you just had me. I just flashed a memory, because I am that. I've always liked taking care of myself,
Mhm.
and I've always taken pride in that. I will say that my partner Ethan was like the best handler in the world. And I remember like some of our first meets, I'd go to the airport and go to grab my bag, and he'd be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm getting my goddamn bag. And like me and him always
Yep.
like we're notorious for shoving each other before the competition, but we did that shit all the time. So like he shoved me out and I'd shove him back. And he's like, dude, your job this weekend is to fucking lift plates. Like you're lifting a bar with plates. Everything else I'm doing.
And that's, to be fair, that is very similar to how Sean Copeland handles me. Though he is the quietest in the couple of days running up to the meet. Because he knows that the quieter he is, I'll mimic that, and I am just very subdued, very low key.
See, I
And
was
so
the
he
opposite.
he,
Ethan would get all
he leads
nervous, and I'm
me
like,
very well.
dude, calm down, man. I'm the one that's lifting.
Yeah, no, he is low key. The only time he'll get amped up at the meet is like as you're kind of getting set up, or if something happens.
Yeah.
Great example of that. So
But
we're
that's
at
good. He knows that that's helping, or he probably knows that that's
oh yeah, he
helping
knows.
you.
If you've never talked to Sean extensively, like he is a master of psychology. I love it because if you ever see him walking around, he's got his necklace. It's a chess piece, the king, and it symbolizes a lot of things. But the biggest thing is like he is always playing chess, not checkers.
Yeah.
And so he
Well,
he is he is always thinking 3 to 4 steps ahead, which is one of the reasons I love him because I don't always do that. I usually do, but I don't always do that. And so Sean is able to kind of corral and wrangle me. Um, and make sure that we stay on this path. Again, he's one of the reasons why, other than 2020, I haven't gotten injured. I haven't, uh, you know, overstepped too much. I may have, bombed out of a meet. That's more on me, but like he's kept me on that straight and narrow, which is hilarious thing that Sean Copeland keeps me on the straight and narrow.
I've always said that the body can only do what the mind tells it to. So the mind's the real power behind,
Oh yeah,
especially this sport. You know
100%.
what's
And
funny though? Like listening to you talk and then listening to myself, like just us talking is proving our point of what a team and members can do. Because the both of us have achieved great numbers, and we're both going, yeah, but it was because of these other people
yeah,
that allowed me to do that.
and I think a good example of that is so I hit those numbers we just talked about earlier at Holy Wars in Connecticut in November of last year, 2024.
Mhm.
And that was the first time that our main crew of guys, so that's Billy, Pat Crawford, Sean Copeland, Steve Brock, and myself, the five of us had never traveled together ever. And we did. And we all stayed together, same hotel, most in the same room actually. And there was something about like the best part of that meet, honestly, was not the meet or the numbers. Like I had a great day. Even though the numbers weren't there, Bill had a great day because he got sick the day before. He weighed in at 320. He walked on the platform at 300 pounds.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, not a good day. Still totaled almost 2,000. So like again, to make it through all that with your gear not fitting the way it's supposed to,
Yeah.
basically lifting raw, like
No, that's
you had a
that
great
his gear was probably not even close
no.
to what
He
to
like
what it should.
they couldn't tighten the LUP enough because that's how much weight he'd lost.
Mhm.
So like to persevere through that is incredible. And what's the first thing Bill's doing? Bill is the one because I was in the second flight. He's setting me up under the bar because we're used to that during training. He's even like he's making sure my wrists are wrapped the right way. Like, but that's just what we all did.
I mean, just so like I don't know if people know the history of the sport. So when I got into the sport, it was like the late '90s, and
Hmm.
we had the single ply gear, which people are like, oh, it's a single ply gear. It wasn't. The single ply gear was tight as fucking hell. It was so hard to put on. It took so much energy, and it didn't give you anywhere near what gear today gives you now, or the gear that I was using later. So you almost had to have people to help you. You
Yep.
weren't getting in a bench shirt, a closed back, tight ass single ply bench shirt for free.
Absolutely not.
Otherwise, it
Absolutely not.
wouldn't do anything for you at all. And
Right.
even your squat suits and like guys, I remember pulling people's straps up, going, "Jesus, I'd rather lift because this is worse. This is
Oh yeah.
worse putting people's gear on than." And so like you kind of had to start wearing gear. But I started like my first bench meet, and my first three lift meets were raw. But even the fact of going to a meet by yourself and you're like, dude, I got to keep track of who's up, who's on deck, who's in the hole. I
Yep.
got to make sure I'm warming up right. Like, there's all this added mental stress when you have just one good handler with you. You're like, dude, I just got to lift, man.
Yeah.
Like, my guy's going to tell me, okay, we need to start warming up. Okay, you need to hit this. Hey, you're 3 out, so get ready.
Mhm.
Like, and there's just this whole mental thing that just gets released. We're like, dude, all I got to focus on is hitting my technique.
Yeah. And
That's
we're a little different too because we travel deep. Like a light crew for us to a meet, we'll have one person competing and we'll have seven people there.
yeah,
Not because they're all handling this, is we just roll deep everywhere we go.
yeah. No, and that it's nice to have that support. It's nice to
Oh, it's
have those
awesome.
people there, and then you got people watching you. And if you start getting nervous, you got people that'll say the right shit to calm you back down, or the right shit to
100%.
refocus you, or the right shit to get you out of focus. If the lift's done and it's like, dude, you're gonna have an
Yep.
hour before you do anything. You need to like go
Yeah.
back to,
Yep.
that's a
And
huge thing.
even if it's something simple like,
And not
Dakota
to say
Duffy.
you can't do it yourself.
Yeah. But
But
it's
why
something
not?
as
If
simple
you
as
can
that.
make it easier, why not? I mean, I deadlift sumo because you know what? It shortens my fucking movement.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, like something as simple as this, like you're getting ready to bench, and it's a great picture that got taken at Holy Wars where Dakota Duffy's standing right there with a chalk bucket. She grabbed the meat chalk bucket from everybody else and is standing there so that I have chalk ready for me.
Yes.
So I don't have to walk any extra steps. Just boom, there it is. Something as simple as that, but that takes, ounces of energy that I don't have to waste and
Hmm.
calories of thinking I don't have to waste because I just have people doing that for me.
Yeah.
And it seems like a little thing, but it's huge.
Yeah. Well, how many of those do you have throughout the day? 100, 1,000?
Yep.
Like that adds up.
It does. It does. And oh, by the way, I also got to go lift some big heavy circles. So
Yeah.
let's try to save those ounces. So
And that's our goal. Our goal.
yeah,
I tell people that
yeah.
too. I go, powerlifting's really not about strength. It's about how much weight can you lift.
Well, it's not called weight power cutting. It's called
The,
power
the,
lifting.
the strongest guy doesn't win the meet. The
No,
smartest guy that
the
lifts the
the
most weight wins the meet.
the best executor is who wins
Yeah.
always.
And
It's like,
hey, that would be interesting. Like, I wonder how many times a guy by himself lost to a guy with a team just because that guy had a team.
I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it, and like,
Hell, I've
I
seen
think
it.
it's
I done it. I started competing
yeah.
by myself because I trained at home, and then I kind of moved back to Reno, and I didn't know anybody. And I'm so fortunate. Like I've had so many fortunate things in my life. But Diablo Barbell, Ted O'Neill, Diablo
Mhm.
Barbell and Concord. Man, those guys like kind of took me under their wing.
Yeah.
So like I go to a meet going, everybody's like, "Who's handling you? What are you doing?" I go, "I have no fucking idea. Sure hope Diablo's there."
Yep. Yep. I was very lucky. I met up with the guys from Wolfpack 10 years ago when we were all at a different gym. And when we split off of that gym, they said, hey, like, we want you to come with us. And it's been history ever since.
Yeah. It's a big deal. And I mean, I'm not saying you can't do it alone. And I think there's benefits to
Well,
both ways.
you,
I mean, I think the
you
one
can,
thing about
you
doing it
cannot do multiply
alone,
alone. You cannot do multiply alone. You
no,
cannot.
you can't. You can't.
Not
Because
effectively.
you're never going to be able to push. I mean, and that's okay, listen, we all know the gear helps you a little bit,
Oh, yeah.
but it helps you at the bottom. So if you don't train your top end, you're not going to get what you can out of the gear.
You're,
So that
you,
means you're lifting heavier weights. You need help getting in the gear. Like, dude, trying to take your own, a raw guy can take a pretty heavy handoff by himself.
sure.
In gear, it doesn't
You want,
work.
you want to try to wrap your knees when you're all suited up?
Yeah,
No, f-
yeah, dude, I don't think I could bend over to wrap my knees.
kidding me? And those I've seen some people do it. There is one anomaly who I'm not going to put the respect on his name enough to say it, and that's fine. But also, like, it's funny because that same person was then begging for help as he started getting better and better at some of these bigger meets,
Yeah,
and he can very rarely get it because
and
he's
there is no fucking way you're gonna tell me you can wrap tighter than somebody else can wrap you.
you can't.
There's
I,
no way.
I, I will put Sean Copland's wrap up against anyone,
Yeah, there's no way.
anyone.
I mean, it's just it's. I think you said this too. Like I'm so. Oh, you did say this. You said something about guys hitting numbers raw that used
Mhm.
to be like geared numbers.
Yeah,
And I'm not bagging on raw. I love raw. I pretty much train raw right now. Although once the move's over and I can get my training a little more consistent again, I am
yeah.
going to go back into the gear to play around a little bit. Um, like what did Colton just hit 26 something?
What 1,200 kilo squat or total? So what's that 20? Yeah, 2640 or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Like
that's ridiculous. I totaled
I,
27:33 in full multiply gear. Like that's
he did
and he
that.
did it a lot lighter than me too.
Did it in wraps. Did it at 23 years old.
Yeah, that's unfucking believable too.
So like, so he listen, he is an anomaly. Whatever athletic pursuit he was going to do, he was going to be great.
Yeah, it didn't matter. Yeah.
And so, but what I love is like now for those that truly have like eyes to see, the bar is not just what is at your gym. The bar is what is at the top of that spreadsheet on open powerlifting. And
Hmm.
he's now set that bar higher. And what's wild is who's one of the first people to congratulate him? Dan Bell, the guy's record he took. And
Yeah, but I think that's an interesting thing. So we're me and you. This is great. We're
I
getting
know,
off. Okay, so we're back, and I had a comment. Bain just mentioned how Dan Bell was like the first guy to compliment Colton when he broke his record. And I've always had this thing that I think there's the beginning when people are newer in the bottom of powerlifting, they're actually really open and really cool. And then there's this you get into the middle, and this is where you kind of start getting egos and attitude, and people are talking shit.
jockeying for position
Yeah,
and
and then you get to the top level, and the top level guys are cool as shit again. And I've always kind of found that about powerlifting, and it's never really made sense to me, but I think that's a great point is like these guys like Dan Bell. Dan Bell knows what it takes to make it to the top. He knows what
goes.
it takes to be at the top where there's no one above you, and how do you keep pushing beyond that? So like
Yeah.
he has this whole appreciation for, I mean, when somebody beats your records, I mean, you have to, especially me being older, I remember the excitement of beating Bill Kazmar's total. Like I was pumped, man. That was somebody I looked up to my whole life. And
Hmm.
like I actually out totaled him. And I don't want anyone else, not that people are gonna look up to me, and I'm not comparing myself to Kazmar because I didn't even do strongman like that. But like I don't want to take that away from somebody else.
No.
Like somebody has to beat my record because I love powerlifting. And if nobody ever beats records, sports die.
Exactly. And
So I want someone to experience that. I want the sport to go further. When I see guys that are totaling like that, when I remember Raw, like the 1,000 pound was such a huge deal to me,
mhm.
and to break that, and it's like, wow, now guys are doing that Raw. That's
Yep.
fucking awesome. Like it
And you know
doesn't
what?
make me feel bad. The fact that I keep getting knocked down the all-time total list, I'm like, dude, if I'm still
What?
at 10 or 11 and it's 20 years later or whatever it is, I'm actually kind of honored still. And eventually it's going to go lower, and someday I'm going to be like top 50. But you know what? That means some cool ass shit happened in the sport, and that's awesome.
I I look at it like this. So we go way back here. So I graduated high school 25 years ago. And at that time, I was our school's all-time leading scorer in soccer. Most goals, most assists, whatever. And so my name,
Awesome.
it was cool. Like we weren't a good program. Let me be very clear. Like my freshman year, we lost every single game. We lost to a school that has won 5 games in their entire program's history. We were one of them. It sucked. It was horrible. But and my senior year, we came within 1 game of state. We were a 500 team. The team has never been below 500 in the 25 years since. So like we started something, which was cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we had on the back of our stadium, all the school records are there. Top 10 for everything. So you've got your, most touchdowns, most yards, most goals, all that stuff. And so for 20 years, my name, like you said, kept getting knocked down till finally in 2019, it got fully knocked off. So my name's no
Mm-hmm.
longer on the list. But it's cool because like then you see like what has come from that because someone that you said set that bar. They and I never made a big deal out of it because like listen, like I played soccer in Iowa. Like it's nothing. It's not a great soccer state necessarily. But excuse me. When you look at powerlifting and you look at that upper end, once you get to that point, you have two ways you can go. You can like try to position yourself where I'm untouchable. Or you can take up the mantra of Bob Merck, who tells everybody you cannot outlift being an asshole. So enjoy it, have fun, be nice, and super cool. After I hit my 11:51, my team's there. They were excited. Next person up to shake my hand is Rudy Rosales, who, from Overkill. I happen to get all my gear from Rudy. Not sponsored. I just buy my stuff from him because he's my friend. And the next person standing there is Bob, reminding me that, hey, you're almost there because he's the next person on the list on the way up on the 275 list. So I'm number 7, he's number 6. It's like how dope is that? And also Bob's one of my best friends, and so like that's super cool that like it's all about like, hey man, you're next one up. Like
Yeah.
come pass it. And I think that's so important. And to the point about like Dan and Colton, like the younger generation needs to see that because what they do typically see is the online, the toxicity, the infighting, the
Yeah.
silliness, the you know, people that constantly harass you on your posts in the comments. Won't name any names. Like did now. You can edit that out. No, like
Dude, I don't edit shit.
perfect. Love that. And also I said what I said. But like people like don't get me wrong, like, some of that stuff's funny. Like some of the trolling can be funny.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's just it is energy that can be put towards other things. And now that's real for most of us, this is a hobby. That's all it is. Like
Yes, we're not
I
making a living. We're never
yeah.
gonna make the live. Well,
Dude,
I hope someday. I think some guys are doing really well now, which is nice.
oh yeah. Yeah.
And I mean,
Like
that's another thing. Like I was getting, I had a big sponsor with Cytosport and Muscle Milk.
hmm,
So I was making like, I think I was making 12 grand a year from them,
I take it.
which was huge. I was happy as shit to have it, but I'm like, okay, I hope that other guys after me learn from this and do better.
Yeah. Well, like
Like I
listen,
hope someday a guy can make a good living as a powerlifter.
so I've said this from the jump is like if people want money in this sport, you have to look outside of powerlifting. So I'll make some generalities here, but I think you'll understand what I'm saying. Powerlifters are broke. For the
Yes.
most part, they are.
Yes.
Like, if nothing else, like look at the generation who is the majority of the actual numbers of powerlifting. You guys are in your early to mid 20s. Y'all are broke as shit.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
So knowing that, why would you look at powerlifting companies to sponsor everything?
Yeah.
And a great example of this is look at like cornhole, right? Everybody plays cornhole bags, whatever you want to call it. You're out there, you're barbecue, you're tossing, and it's fun, right?
Mhm.
Professional cornhole is on ESPN 3. It's on ESPN 2 sometimes. Do you know what their prize purse was for their world championships?
I'm
$3 million.
You're shitting me.
You know who sponsored it? Johnsonville Brats, Bridgestone, a couple other, different companies that provide parts for vehicles.
Hmm.
Dude, I don't care if Depends sponsors a big level meet. That $50,000 check from Depends spends the same way. I'll rock those underwear. I don't give a shit. Are you kidding me?
Hmm.
So people have to think outside the box. Like, who can I go to? A great example of who is trying to do this is Jason Lawson, who runs meets for the SPF down in Tennessee and Kentucky.
Hmm.
He's talking to distilleries. He's talking to breweries. Like, who doesn't love whiskey and deadlifts? Why wouldn't you bring those together? So let's
Well,
talk to a distillery,
I think even
have them sponsor it.
when I went to Cytosport, I went in there, I put a package together. I actually did my own graphic art stuff.
Mhm.
And I go, listen, here's the deal. Here's powerlifting. Here's the truth about powerlifting. But what's
Yep.
happening is people aren't marketing powerlifting. People don't need to know who I am, but you can do an ad that Chad, this holds this world record, drinks
Mhm.
this.
Right.
It's the same thing. Like if you're a whiskey company, not everybody has to necessarily know that person, but if you put the right ads that, hey, the
Yeah.
strongest dude in the world drinks our whiskey, people are like, oh shit, dude, I work out. That dude drinks that whiskey.
Right.
Because it's not like you said, it's not about the power lifters. It's about where the money comes from. If you want money in
Right.
the sport, you got to go to where the
It's
money
about
comes
the
from.
product.
Yes. Yeah.
It's all it is. And so and people are starting to come around to that. So like, yeah, I agree. I would love to see that this could become a professional level sport. I know we have all the talk of like all the judging and the integrity and blah blah blah. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, I will say this on every microphone I can ever get. If anybody tells me to give a lift back because the judges were too generous, go fuck yourself. Here's why. If I'm in the NFL and it is fourth down and 10, 2 seconds to go in the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I'm down by 5, I catch that touchdown and I step out of bounds and they don't call it, guess what? Put the ring on my finger.
I've always told people, I go, listen, first of all, I'm not going to argue with a judge because it's nothing's ever been reversed. First of all, if you do argue with that judge, you're going to see that judge again, and he's going to fucking remember that.
Correct.
Not to mention, everyone should be a judge every once in a while, just to go, this isn't the easiest fucking job in the world. Like
It is
you
not.
can go, oh, we'll just judge either it's good or it's bad, and you go, but you got guys in the way. You're trying to benefit the lifter. Like there's a lot of shit going on. It's not an easy job.
And when you're judging an
And even when
all-time
I
world
judged, I
record,
would go, dude, don't make me red light you. I don't want to red light anybody but I
Right.
have to have an equal standard. So if I red lighted you, I'm kind of pissed that you made me red light you.
Right. Because you're prescribing to the idea that the lift is good till you tell me it's not, till you show me it's not.
Yeah. And I've
Versus,
had I've had calls where I went, "Ooh, I got that one," and I've also
yeah,
had calls where I went, "Fuck, really?"
yeah,
But in
yeah.
the end, it all fucking equaled out.
It does.
I mean, in
It
my
does.
mind.
My
And I've never,
my
I hate, first of all, if I'm on the internet and you say something that I disagree with, if I want to discuss it, I might have a comment, but I'm not just going to say something negative. If I have something negative, I'm just going to keep it to myself or forget it. Like, what's the fucking point? So, like, even if I went, man, I don't know if that dude actually hit depth on that squat. You know what? It fucking passed and it's in the books. So
exactly.
who gives a shit? Like,
And
it
guess what?
counts.
Exactly. No one cares. And let's be real. Powerlifting is not real.
I mean, even I did that 12:21 squat, which would have been the world record,
Mhm.
and I happen to know all the judges. So one of them was Bob Youngs, who passed away, but and he's like, man, Chad, he goes, it was so close, man, but I just couldn't give it to you. Like, and I'm like, don't worry about it, dude.
Yep.
You're the judge. That was your call. I'm not gonna
I
hate you because you did what you felt was right. Like, I
yeah.
respect it. I respect the call. Not a problem.
I fully disagree with a call that I got in 2022. Took a 10-14 squat. I buried it. I took it lower than my second. I got three whites on my second. I got two reds on the side. I'm like, okay. But to your point, like the powers of the universe will always equal out.
Yeah.
I think I was probably given a generous call on my 1151. Still passed. I'll take it. So like everything's even.
Plus,
And
with depth is funny because we're watching it from videos.
right.
If the video is shot here or here, it's going to look a lot different.
Yep. If it's shot from the back, it's going to look
And
different.
then like because I've watched videos of some of mine and I'm like, dude, man, Ethan, I don't think that fucking. And he's like, dude, I was on the side.
Yeah.
He goes, you're watching the camera view, and because we were always pretty strict on depth in training. So like if my guy said it was good, it was good.
Yeah. And that's
So I'm like,
that's
all right, dude, it's just the camera angles and whatever. If it passes, it passes. That's all that
exactly.
matters.
And at the end of the day, like I said, powerlifting is not real. It's all a hobby. Like, oh, the people that care about this, honestly, are me and my team, the chalkboard at the gym, and my kid because he gets to brag. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is.
Well, in the end, it's getting older is not. I don't see getting older is a bad thing. Like I actually kind of enjoy it. But now I get to look back at powerlifting from all these things I thought in the beginning to being fortunate enough to compete at a high level, then to getting injured and pushing my mental shit over the cliff, and then healing up, and then being where I'm at now. It's interesting to look back at this whole thing.
Mhm.
And I think on my last table talk with Dave was asking me my numbers, and I'm like, man, I don't know, like 1170 something or like 820 something. Like, I don't, and he goes, you really don't know, do you? And I go, unless I look it up on open powerlifting. I go, most of the stories and shit that I tell are again going back full circle. It's about the times I had with my team and the
Yep.
guys I got to meet and hanging out with all these amazing lifters and just being part of this whole thing.
Yeah.
That
I get
was
to
the
tell
real fun of it.
I get to tell people that I train with Crystal Tate.
Yeah.
Are you like there are not enough adjectives in the English language to describe that woman.
Strong
She
as
is,
shit.
yeah. Like watching her, I was talking about, Sean losing his mind if something goes wrong. Like spotter incident at the 2022 Strength of Heroes, and it screwed up Crystal's knee pretty bad. Like she should have stopped that day, but she's Crystal.
Yeah.
Still benches over four on one leg after busting her knee up. She's having to be walked up to the platform for her deadlifts. She pulls over six on one leg and then breaks the floor with seven.
That's crazy.
Conventional hook grip on one leg. Like you can't tell me anything. Like this woman is out of this world. And now that she's got the knee replaced, oh, are not ready.
Yeah, that's where that goes back to that mentality thing. There's some people and I try to it's funny because when you talk about I'm fascinated with the idea of genetics.
Mhm.
And I thought about this a long time ago. It's like, okay, well what I mean, define genetics. Is genetics the ability to just know how to move properly? Like the young kid who can just wing a baseball and nobody's ever taught him how to throw.
Yep.
Like, is the genetics just that he knows how to throw and has great proprioception? And I go, what about the genetics of the mind? Because I was never natural to strength. I was never a natural athlete, and I grew up with a dad who is an unbelievable natural athlete and a brother who's a great athlete, and I fucking sucked at everything. But do I have genetics? Because I'm stubborn as a motherfucker. And like I will say that I will convince myself that I can do things that there's no way in hell I should be able to do. So
Yeah.
is that genetics? Like what really is genetics and what gives us this?
So
But
it's
I love
ingrained.
powerlifting because there's so many stories like that. And it's like
Yeah.
I remember talking to Dave a long time ago when I first met Dave Tate, and we were talking about Vogelpool, and he's like, "This dude should not be able to do the shit he does. Like he's just not big enough." And it's like, but he doesn't know that. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't know he shouldn't be able to do it.
That dude, that's Anthony Hobica to a T. That man should like, dude, squatting 1,005 at 191.
Yeah, it's
Like
just ridiculous.
it's insane. And then benching 800 at 196 when he did that in a bench. It's insane.
Yeah,
But also having top 10 all-time totals in raw with wraps, single ply, multiply, and unlimited all at the same
yeah.
time. Like unreal.
I mean, look at somebody like Jimmy Cole. How
Freak.
you are
Freak.
so him and Tony Carlino are so far above everyone else.
Crazy.
And it's like how do you do that? I remember having I talked with I don't know for some reason people don't seem to remember Brett Mikesell that much. And I was having a talk with him because he was the first person I saw do 1,000 in person.
Hmm.
And then like I was right behind him and I finally caught him like at the end and I remember talking to him afterwards and he's like, "Yeah, nobody even really remembers who I am." And I was like, "Dude, I remember who the hell you are." I go, "You know what you did that nobody ever does? Like you broke the record at like 1,050
Hmm.
and you kept going up and up
Nope.
and up and up. And then somehow Goggins came out of there bammed at 11. But then you went up and you went up and you
Yep.
went up. And I don't even know what he ended with 1,040 or 1140 or
Think
something.
think 1145 or 1150, something like
Yeah.
that.
And it's like there's a difference between putting up a good number,
Hmm.
breaking a world record, and then continuing to break a world record.
Correct.
That mindset to go, okay, no one's ever been here, but I don't give a shit. I'm going to keep going.
Mhm.
That's a crazy mindset.
It is. It truly, truly is. And but again, yeah, people that are just they're mentally built different. And I think
Yeah.
that it's actually a good segue because I do have a bit of a time box that we talked about to end
Okay.
here too. But um, one of the other things that we want to talk about was this Project 1K.
Yes, which that's such a great idea.
That, be very clear. The name is mine, the concept is Donnie's.
Yeah.
And Donnie and I have been talking about this for 2 years. And we had a conversation after some, I don't even know what it was that prompted it. And I think it was because he asked like if I was going to shoot for 11. I said absolutely. Like at this point like I've done 1,000. The sky's the limit. I don't know where I'm going to end up.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, there's got to be so many cool stories because I mean we talked about like my very first time in a suit in training. So I'd never had a suit on. I had wraps on in almost 5 years. I squatted 1,009,
Really. What were you doing raw
and
at that time?
I was getting close to 8 raw, and in briefs, like probably 4 or 5 months before that, I did like 9, 10.
So you had
And
been handling heavier weights
oh
then.
yeah, yeah. I think, and I was joking with people about it, like catching a lot of those big squats when I was spotting, it that has helped my core get so strong.
I mean, it's almost like when you're spotting somebody, it's almost like a front squat.
It's a Zercher squat
And
or
then
a
you're
front, yeah,
usually catching them from like halfway up.
huh?
So it's like just heavy bullshit top
Yeah. And
third of a
so
squat.
exactly, and so like I think about it now, like man, like there's a reason why I was so tired after spotting because like I'm doing a max effort volume squat workout
Yeah.
every other Sunday. So so I was able to handle those big weights. I started kind of focusing on my own training. And so we talked about, my first multiply meet. I took a swing at 1,000, wasn't there that day. Next one, kind of mentioned already, like it was definitely there. Like every video I've seen, everything, like yes, it was there, got taken. And then my third multiply meet, I uh I had 10, 10, and then 10:35. So like from a competition perspective, it took less than a year for me to get to that. And then Donnie's talking about it, he's like, yeah, it took me like 3 years to go from 900 to 1,000. And that's what he's like, man, the stories are just so different. Like I'd love to hear all these stories. And
Hmm.
then you get some of these guys that are anomalies, like, your Phil Herndons who've done 1,000 in wraps in single ply and multiply, like, and did it all in a 12 calendar year,
That's pretty amazing.
which the guy's a freak. So, like, his story, your story, talk about, we'd love to hear from some of these guys who aren't with us anymore, like your, uh, you know, those guys from West Side talk about Chuck. Like, we've all heard the legend of the 1,400 pound AR squat, like, all these different stories, like, and everyone's so different. And it's not that this thing is commonplace anymore. Like, yes, it is because we hear about, oh, this meet had 2,000 pound squatters. This meet has three. Holy Wars, we're gonna have a whole flight of 1,000 pound squatters, which is cool. But doing the numbers, it's less than 400 people that have ever done this in human history. For context, 1.1 million people ish do a marathon every year.
Hmm.
Every year.
Well,
And
there's
you're talking,
also people like I looked up Scott's, my training partner. I looked up his open powerlifting, and it's not even listed
really?
because it was a meet, and it was either a Diablo meet or a
Mhm.
super training meet, and it
Something unsanctioned or what
I
have
guess
you.
somehow no, it was sanctioned. I just somehow it hasn't gotten to open powerlifting or something.
Gotcha. So that's another thing is like there are people that their stories haven't been told yet, and folks know for sure they did this in a meet and it was sanctioned and it was legit. And so we have all this different stuff. Like this would be a cool like ebook or book or I don't know if you were aware. Dave Kirchin did a book called Gear. Basically, like it was an intro to
Did he?
lifting.
I didn't know. I don't have that one.
Yeah, so it's a crowdsourced
I
book. It's
love
free.
Dave. I bet it's a great book too.
It's phenomenal. But 400 pages of like crowdsourced. Like you have everybody from Dave to Brian Hill, Bob Burke, myself, all these people putting all this stuff to like I have a whole chapter on just spotting the equipped lifting.
Hmm.
And uh all these people put together this book of like how to look at equipment, how to do the movements, the gear to look into, the training methodologies, everything. And he
Hmm.
put this out for free. And I'm like, we could do something like this. Like we could crowdsource this and get people to tell their story.
Well, I think
And
it's so fun. Like I interviewed Paul Leonard. I've had him. I think I've had him on a couple times now because he's
Mhm.
like got so much knowledge about older lifting, and I'm fascinated. It's always fascinated with me that like how it goes and stuff. Because first of all, a lot of people are like, well, yeah, there was multiply, and you talk about these raw numbers, but you don't really know the numbers that these guys were doing raw, and they weren't even focusing on raw. I mean, like I tell people, I was a 600-pound raw bencher, but I never did a meet because I didn't really care.
Yeah,
Like
that's not how you compete it.
once a year on a random day, we'd be like, hey, let's see how we can bench raw today.
Right?
And you're just
Exactly.
like, oh, okay.
I did that last Sunday. I benched 435. It's like a 20-pound lifetime PR. I don't care necessarily because like I don't compete equipped
That's not
or
what you
raw anymore.
compete in. Like, why would you care? So, I
Right.
mean, it's like there's still strong people, and there's no doubt people are stronger now than they've ever been.
Oh, 100%.
Like, and there's
100%.
multiple reasons for that. Like you said, Colton, the dude would probably be amazing at whatever he chose to do.
He
And like, I
was
think the sport
he
has a
was an
bigger
elite.
draw now
Yeah. He was an
because
elite
there's
rugby
more
player
talented people.
at one point.
He what?
He was an elite rugby player at one point,
God, could you imagine
which
get hit?
totally
Could
makes
you imagine
sense.
get hit by that dude?
I would prefer not to.
Yeah, so 1,000, like to me, 1,000 was this huge, massive thing.
Hmm.
And the best part is I did my first 700-pound squat, and I told my training partners, I go, you know what? I'm gonna break 1,000 drug free. And they're like, who the hell are you? And how are you gonna do it drug free? Can that even be done? Like I did not have one person, my family, nobody believed I could do it. And they're like, well, when are you going to do this? And I go, I have no idea. I
Yep.
have no idea how I'm going to do it. I have no idea how long it's going to take, but I'm going to do it.
It's any of those goals again. When you put yourself on that, like all those individuals that have done the 1,000 pound squat or bench or deadlift, because that's another whole subsection that we want to do afterwards. But the squat is like because for whatever reason that one is the one everyone gets scared of. You talk about bench press.
Because there's fear. Like everybody asks me,
Yeah.
first of all, like, what's your favorite lift? I'm like the bench because I can lay down. They're like, what's the
And
lift you hate the most? I go, the deadlift because if it gets heavy, you just let go.
yeah,
I go, I've taken 1,052 to the floor because I won't let no bars coming off my back. I'll ride that motherfucker to the ground because it'll give the spotters and lifters a millisecond more time.
Yep.
to not get hurt. And I've
Yep.
been down with 1171, I think.
Woof.
Um, dude, the squat has a fear factor, and I loved that. Like I fed off of that.
Oh,
Like this
100%.
seriously could fuck me up. I could get really, really hurt here.
Dude, 1,100
I
pounds should kill
like
you.
that.
It should kill you.
Yeah.
And that's that. Listen, I've done a lot of drugs in my life. There are few better highs than squatting down and standing back up with something that should kill you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's a complete and utter rush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I joke about it like you talk about bench press, everyone's got a story about bench press. Everyone knows
Yeah.
that guy who repped 405 in high school. You talk about squat, everybody's got knee problems.
Yeah. On my back, I couldn't do it. On my knees.
Ugh. And I love it because I posted this stuff on LinkedIn like because so my moniker on LinkedIn is I'm the strongest man in logistics.
Okay.
And but not transportation because Dan Bell's a wrench head, so technically he's stronger. Uh, one of the many reasons I love Dan. But when I talk about it and I'll post some of this stuff for people to see, and they're like, "Oh, this hurts my knees." I'm like, "Then get stronger." Like,
Yeah.
and I'll these are people that I know, and I'll see them in person. I'm like, if a video hurts your knees, then that's a problem. Like, no, I'm just saying that. Like, then don't say stupid shit.
Well, they don't
That's
understand.
dumb.
You know, when I was competing, I kept having these hip issues,
Hmm.
and so I never got to deadlift without being in pain
Hmm.
because I like again you can get away with things in gear, so I could keep training even without letting it fully heal.
Right.
And so anyway, I'm getting all these doctors, and everybody's trying to help me out. And I had the doctor that used to be the Denver Broncos like surgeon
Hmm.
had moved to Reno and actually was down at Carson, and he called me up and he's like, "Hey man, I'd like to help you out with that hip thing." And so we went in and did MRIs and stuff, and he goes, "Do you mind if I keep this MRI?" And I'm like, "I really don't give a shit, but I'm curious why."
Why? Yeah.
And he goes, "Because you're in your 30s, you're the best one of the best squatters in the world." And he goes, "You literally have the hips of a 20-year-old." And he goes, "I would like to keep this for my clients to go, I can't lift weights." And go, "Yeah, if you do it right, it's not bad for your joints."
Yep. And if you take it serious and you take the rehab serious, like you can have incredible longevity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of back to Project One Cake. So I want to put the bow on this one because this is one, like I'm so excited about this because there's so much like the 1,000 pound squat is universal. I don't care what you're in, I don't care what you're on. It's big, it's heavy, it's impressive, and it can be universally celebrated throughout powerlifting. There is very few things that unite powerlifting other than our hatred of each other. And but like this could be something that long term, like because the 1,000 pound squat will live on well past both you and I,
Mhm.
right? It will continue to do this. And so the idea that this could become like a living, breathing thing of like this manuscript, potentially a podcast is really what I want to do. And then I would love to do a documentary, like actually like something different like that.
That would be really
Um,
cool.
which would be super dope. Like I know some people that do those things and I would love to get their input. I would love to do it myself because like this now has become this passion project over the last 2 years that like I
This
really I'm just so excited about this.
this would be I've always wanted to do, I don't know the people to do this and I don't have the money to do it, but I've always wanted to do a weekly show or a monthly show
Mm.
traveling around to great lifters. I've always thought that if you want powerlifting to get really famous, start letting people know who the lifters are. Give them a reason to want to know how or why that guy, what did he lift this weekend? How's he doing? How's his training going? So give them a connection. And so I thought traveling around and spending some time with those people, have some training, have some hobbies, have some family.
You
And it
get
seems like with this 1,000 pound things, it's like you could be like each episode, you could go visit a person and hear their story, hear kind of how they got there and how they did it. And like that would just be cool as hell.
and that's part of it. Like some of it I will do like this because like there's some folks like across the pond that I may not necessarily be like. The cool thing is that I have some of the resources to do this stuff in person
Mm-hmm.
and may be able to deploy that. Um, we have Dinah has some ideas on like different things we could do to help kind of subsidize, the cost of some of that. Um, But ultimately, like this is what I want this to be. I want this to be my gift to powerlifting because powerlifting has given me so much.
Hmm.
And if nothing else, like I look at it from this perspective, is that if I can give to powerlifting something that will continue to live on and excite people and bring people to it, it can be the milkshake that brings all the boys to the yard. I want that because like the simple thing that powerlifting is giving me is my children have watched me in the pursuit of this
Hmm.
over the last 11 years. They have seen all the stuff no one gets. They've seen me, crawling up the stairs so I can't walk. They've seen me, in pain. They've seen me do the stuff that sucks. My son is now taking up. I coached my oldest daughter as well before she became a mom. But they've all seen me in the pursuit of something that was well beyond my paycheck or anything else. And they understand like that because of that, now I've got a little bit of like, freight fame and fitness fame that allows me to basically do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I'm like, and so what powerlifting has given me is it's given me my freedom. And so comes back to my favorite line from Gladiator is you win the crowd or you win your freedom. I've won the crowd, and so I've won my freedom. And my children get to experience that on some level. And I'm like, this is what I want you guys to see is it may not be this, but you can find something that you're so passionate about that you can win your freedom.
That's really interesting. Because that makes me think back to kind of what we talked about earlier, and it's like when I was in powerlifting, it was like, hey, I at least want to push the limits so the next generation's a little bit closer. So, I mean, I feel a little bit of sense of pride when you say that because I feel like, and this is arrogant and ego as shit, and Billy will love this. Um,
Dude, I
you know
watched
what?
your videos. You were one of the ones.
I feel like I had some part of growing the sport through trying to get sponsors, through trying to, working with elite and doing so many seminars and writing hundreds of articles that maybe I was a little bit a part of growing the sport so that by the time you got in and now we have social media and all this stuff, you were able to utilize that to get
Yep.
maybe you didn't make a living at it, but it gave you that kind of that freedom you're talking about
Yeah.
to do some other cool stuff in life. I
The-
mean, that's kind
the-
of what it's all about.
I mean, real talk, man, this is full circle. The first three people whose articles I read on Elite FTS were Brandon Smitley, Joe Jordan, and you.
That's like kind of makes it hard to talk.
Yeah, because Eric Morozier also wrote for Elite, and he introduced us to, or introduced me at least to the Elite group and everything like that.
Hmm.
I went out to the was it the S4 compound? So not the one he's in
Hmm.
now, but the one before.
Yeah.
Um, my first Arnold and everything, and so it started this fire, right? And don't get me wrong, like it took me a while to kind of figure these things out, but like yeah, now it becomes like because and it will crystallize it is listening to my son. So Nolan's 16, he'll be 17 in July. He's on the powerlifting team at his high school. And I said, hey, if you guys want a volunteer coach, I'm happy to help. Talk to your head coach about it because like Paul's a younger guy, good dude, very
Hmm.
strong. And like, but I don't want to undermine him or to be in the way or anything like that. Like I'd
Right.
only want to help. And Nolan just like went, as I went off, like he wasn't like angry, but like he went on this tear talking to his coach. Like you have to understand, like my dad thinks about everything so differently because of what he's been around and everything like that.
Yeah.
And the kids all talk about it too. Like Coach Paul explains this exact same stuff to us, but like somehow you explain it in a way that we get. I'm like, well, that
Yeah.
comes from one, like my education background. Like I went to school to be an educator, so like I learned that. But also like I've had dozens of people tell me the exact same thing, and one person finally hits and it clicks.
Yeah.
It's just the way I'm saying it, or even the tone of my voice because you're more receptive to it, whatever it may
But
be.
that I think that's from the experience. That's the experience from living it and doing it
Yeah.
and talking to and being around so many other great athletes.
Yes. And but now I've got this whole next generation, not just my son, but like it was so cool to watch him get that excited. And I had a super cool moment at his first meet where they allowed me to backspot him.
Hmm.
And it's like how awesome is this that here's my kid and he's basically if you picture me with all this hair up here, that's Nolan. And I'm at 100 pounds lighter. And but like how cool is that moment that he and I've gotten to experience that? My oldest daughter Lily and I have gotten to represent Team USA at back in 2019. Like whose kids get to say that?
Yeah.
Mine do. Mine get to say that. And like now that they've had those memories, I'm like, cool. Now whether it's powerlifting or whatever, like take that and make whatever you're doing with your life better for the next generation.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I love.
It's kind of like that. It's just that lesson of like powerlifting can teach you such great lessons in life that you can
Yep.
take into life. And there was one like somebody mentioned something about how I talk about philosophy and all this stuff, and I go, but I think what people are missing is like in my training, I did think about philosophy. I did think
Have
about
to.
Buddhism. I thought like
Yeah.
it's not just about training. It's about how I got to live my life a certain way to achieve in this. And then when I'm
Yes.
done with this, and I actually had this problem when I first like stopped competing. I actually remember somebody going, "Oh, isn't your life so much easier now?" And I go, "Honestly, no, it's not. It's actually harder now." When I had powerlifting, everything was about powerlifting, so I didn't stress about all this stuff because I went, "Oh,
Right.
this stress is going to screw my recovery up and I can't do this." So I like controlled myself better during powerlifting. And it took me a little while to transfer
It was a
from,
guiding light.
yeah, it took me a while to go, "Hey, wait a minute. That was life." And I just thought it was powerlifting, but it was actually life. And I need to get back to that even though I don't compete.
Yep. Absolutely. It would. It again, it's a hobby. My life does not revolve around powerlifting per se, but powerlifting is very much a guiding light for a lot of things.
Yes.
And and again, it's given so much to me, to my family, to my children, um, and my ultimate. I mean, look at the relationships that I've been able to. I mean, you and I have met in person one time ever. It was 2023 women's program.
Yes.
Like, but it's cool because once again of social media and the way that we've all interacted, like I feel like I know you. I feel like you know me on some
Yes.
level, and and then again, you have these relationships, these foundations that you build, and like every other sport, you sweat together, you bleed together, you cry together, like all these things come together. And this is a much deeper human connection than you're going to have sitting across a cubicle or across, a typical Zoom meeting with someone. So for that, I am forever thankful and honestly forever thankful for you, sir, because those articles are some things that laid the foundation for me to get to do what I do now.
That's an honor. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. But
Yeah.
like
Now the allergies are going crazy.
I'm in yeah, damn allergies. There's flowers in here.
Yeah.
Um so I'm in the middle of this move and I'm building a barn dominium in Pahrump, which is about an hour outside Vegas.
Okay.
So Vegas is a cheap place to fly. I know there's a lot of strength stuff happening there. So what
Yeah.
I'm trying to do is I want to get to where I can do the podcast regular, do once a week. And like so like I this was so much fun. I would love to have you on again at some point.
Absolutely.
And definitely if you're ever in Vegas, I want you to come to Pahrump and train and
I get out there about half a dozen
podcast
times a year.
and shit. And because that's my main goal is to have this building set up where I got a good gym, I got some space, I can have guests come to podcasts and
And you
stuff.
and
And
you need to get down to Henderson to back alley barbell.
I don't know. I went to Henderson because Brandon Allen's in Henderson. No, Brandon
Right.
Allen's in.
He's in North Las Vegas, I think. So Henderson
No,
is
Nick's in North. Brandon's in. I can't think of it. It's the little town like just
might be
south.
Summerlin or
No,
he's right outside. But
yeah,
Henderson is
but
where Anthony,
Henderson's like kind of east
yeah,
south.
but that's where Anthony Hobika's gym is at. That's back
Okay,
alley barbell.
yeah,
So
yeah, I'll have to definitely go see them too.
oh yeah,
But I mean, that's
it's
kind of one of the reasons I'm moving to Pahrump is I'm kind of a little bit of a loner and I like to kind of be alone. But I also like being close. And so like right now, Vegas is like, dude, Vegas is becoming like a huge mecca. There's so many strong guys and
yep.
bodybuilding and everything down there. So I'm like, I think this will be a good move for me. Like,
And then when you get the rest of the sports that are coming there, like the area itself is just booming. It's awesome.
yeah. So
So
that's an
yeah,
exciting one, but definitely want to have you on. It's funny that what you said a little earlier. It's like, even though we've talked once in person, and I think that was pretty brief,
it was. It was very
dude,
brief.
we just went an hour and 20 minutes and I could honestly stay here for 3 more hours probably.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And have a great time. Like it
Yeah.
is it is amazing that connection and like even if we didn't train together, we all kind of know what we went through.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you squat 1,100 pounds. That didn't just fucking happen. Like, you didn't start powerlifting fucking a year ago. Like, I
No.
know what you've put in to do that,
Oh, if we got into the origin story of like how I got into lifting weights and like the guys that got me into it, like I could spend a whole podcast just talking about a guy no one's ever heard of and no one ever will, a guy named Travis Edwards. Didn't even powerlift. the whole reason that I am a strength athlete is because of Travis.
We'll keep that in mind because I'll
Yeah.
have you back on. We'll have plenty.
Love it.
I don't. I think we'll ever have a. I think our biggest problem, and I have this with a lot of my guests, the biggest problem is going to be like staying on point. But I
I do
think
be doing
from
tangents.
my listeners, when I started this podcast, I'm like, dude, I want to, one of my favorite things about lifting, and I need to let you go, but one of my favorite things about lifting was 2 days before the meet in the hotel.
Oh, absolutely.
Sitting in the lobby talking about training and telling
Yep.
stories, and like that was so much fun. And I thought, you know what?
Drinking in the pool after the meet, the best part of it.
If I look back at where I learned the most stuff, it would be my first seminar with Dave Tate would be number one
Mhm.
because that blew my mind. But then it's all the little conversations I had and the little tidbits I learned here and there.
Yep.
So I'm like, I want my podcast to be like where people can go, hey, I got to sit in on a conversation between these two great lifters.
I'll tell you, I could give you so many people. If you want to blow people's minds with a conversation, Barzim Vaziri. I've probably learned more about how to think about my body and how things work and how training is set up from bars than almost anybody.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, and he has one of the most simple philosophies when it comes to training, but it becomes the most brutal when you put it into practice, is make light weights hard.
No, that was actually, this is funny. I heard make the lightweights heavy and the heavyweights light. Now I heard that from Ernie France.
Yeah. That's
So
it. Franz said that, Eddie Cohen said that. They're both
I put it in one of my comments one time, and Eddie Cohen's like, "No, I said that." I'm like, dude, I don't want to offend anybody. I'm just
so
telling you this is where I heard it.
so Barnes is an old Franz disciple, trained in the original gym, like 2,500 pound total, 1,000 pound bencher. Like he is an incredible human to talk to. Somehow an even better, human than he is a lifter, and he's an amazing lifter.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
he
already
could go.
like that because keep it simple, stupid. Like I'm the blue collar guy. I don't
Yep.
really care if I can use big words and tell you names. I want to make it as simple as possible.
Well, he can do both because
Yeah.
his dad was literally a rocket scientist. Used to like work at The Hague, worked in like Los Alamos, like incredibly intelligent. Bars is mental level smart, but he can also sit here and talk to a couple of meatheads and make
Yeah.
everything make sense to you.
Yeah, I love learning that way because I do better. Once I can break it down and keep it simple, it'll actually stay in my head.
He's one you want to talk to for sure.
I'm gonna have to try to get a hold of him. I mean, that sounds like another fun podcast.
At fattest Illinois lifter, that's his Instagram.
Fattest.
Yep.
See, that's good too.
Yep.
I had one. What was the one the other day? I had somebody follow me, and just his Instagram name made me laugh. I can't remember it now. What's
Like I said,
what's your Instagram?
Bain 316. So there's a reason for that. It's my last name. I grew up in the Attitude Era, so Austin 316, of course, huge. For those of us who are wrestling fans, but it also happens to be my birthday.
Oh, really?
Yes. So it's like one great last name because I'm a big comic book nerd. So Bane is my favorite characters. 316 couldn't get any better. There's my Instagram handle.
That's pretty funny. Man, thank you for coming on.
It was an honor.
Dude, is a great podcast. Hopefully I can get this one out in the next week or two.
Perfect.
And then, yeah, definitely let's stay in touch. And man, I'd love to have you back on again. And definitely whenever you let me know whenever you're in Vegas.
Oh yeah, like I said, I get out there.
Maybe I could drive to Vegas and we can do dinner or something like that.
Like I said, I get out there usually about a half dozen times a year for work, for just pleasure, whatever. I'll be out there in May. So if you're moved down there by May, then
yeah, I don't know where I'm going to be. I'm maybe in a travel trailer because permits are slowing me down a little bit. But
well, I'll be at the Aria, so you can come visit.
I'll be out of here in a week, actually. So.
Oh wow, okay. So we'll figure it out, man. We'll keep in touch.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on, dude. That was awesome.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast. For more information, please visit couragebarbell.com. Until next time.